As the world becomes more complex and our situations more entangled, our ability to see from a new perspective, feel from a place of inner connection, and respond from a core inner balance is essential. We are each a vital function of an infinitely intelligent, evolving equation. If you have awakened to your vibrational nature and are unraveling your way out of yesterday's limitations, welcome to your multidimensional potential. I'm Darshana Patel, creator of IONATION. I'm a resource for individuals and organizations who seek to liberate greater degrees of their multidimensional capacities using the lens, language, and logic of vibrational alchemy and intelligence. Shift to a higher way of being and schedule a 60-minute session with me today. Learn more at TurnYourIon.com.
Thank you all so much for joining us this week for the Chronicles of Chiron, the Lion, the Witch, and the Healer. My name is Chrystopher, the AstroMedium, and we have a very special guest with us again. Her name is Darshana Patel. She is the creator of IONATION, a new framework for a multidimensional reality. She's also a vibrational alchemist and an information systems engineer. Darshana, how are you?
I'm amazing. Thanks for that intro. You said it better than I could ever say it. Thank you.
Well, Mercury and Gemini, I must say. But anyway, I'm so happy that you're here with me again.
So excited. Thanks again for having me back. And I'm excited to dig deeper into IONATION. I'm kind of new at engaging in conversation around it. So this is
that's
really
what I want to pull out of you, because there's all this information, this big hologram that you're holding in your energy field. And we're just going to pull that down into the third dimension and teach it to the world because it needs to get out there. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is the Chronicles of Chiron. Chiron is the archetypal wounded healer in astrology. And on this show, we talk about how you can transmute your pain into power. We talk about different healing modalities. Different healers have been on this show talking about what they bring to the table, metaphysically, energetically, and also psychologically as well. And Darshana, from what I know, you cover all of these bases, and this teaching that you have to offer us, it is healing in its own right, and you are an energy healer, correct?
I guess that's the label that kind of fits.
I definitely would say so.
I appreciate that. I guess there's something that I know that I, along with many other people, can feel when it comes to energy and vibration. And so I think the culmination of my life journey has integrated the informational science part of it. I have a computer science background, information systems engineering, along with that vibrational alchemy, has just given me this beautiful experience of being able to understand how we weave the 3D reality and the constructs from a literal algorithmic perspective. Like we program reality with scripts that we write and the weights and the biases at the
talk nerdy to me.
Right? I can't help it. Thanks for letting me.
I love it. Yes. This whole thing is an algorithm. You know, we talk about, oh my gosh, my phone is listening to me. I just talked about this Disney Channel movie today and it popped up on my phone. My phone is listening to me. It keeps showing me things. And I'm like, well, that's what the law of attraction is all about. That's what your reality is all about. And you have a map, I should say. It's a multi-dimensional 3D map, as we discovered in our previous episode. So for those of you, again, who are just joining us, this is a part 2 to a very epic interview that we have going on here. So if you want to refer to the previous video, we deep dive into Darshana's history, how she got into all of this, what brought her to this place, and how she formed this. And we scratched the surface of IONATION, and we talked about ions. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. So for those of you who are just joining us, Darshana, what is an ion? And tell us a little bit more about IONATION and your special vocabulary that you have created.
I appreciate that. So let's imagine for a minute. So everything is just, I made this up. So number one, even though there's a lot of foundations with, if it's all information, it's all imagination anyway. Imagine that ion, literally, we're just light particles, ions, charges of energy, if you will. Let's call them pixels in a hologram so we can play. So
Mhm.
ionation is like a space. Ion at ion reminds us that it's just light particles, ions, pixels in the
Oh my God.
hologram.
I just realized that it was ion at ion, and it just is like a Pandora's box. You're taking me into a fractal. I just keep going deeper into this whole thing. Please continue. I'm sorry, but
Oh, that's
this,
perfect.
that's what I love about this work. I just like a movie that you have to watch several times and you find new bits and pieces in it so that you keep wanting to experience more of it and go deeper. That's how I feel about this work.
I appreciate that, Christopher. This is, so I know you're like, I'll share a screen in a second, but
Sure, there it is. Yes.
that's the image, and it is a 0-point structure that ended up
And you talked
coming
about that last time in the previous video, and I want you to, there it is. There's that, there's that.
the
Mhm.
multi-dimensional.
There it is, and
Yeah.
and the tension. I love that. I love that you have something that really depicts exactly what you're trying to tell us, because that really is your ionation framework in a 3D model. I love that, and so I want to make it 3D for people. I want to make it understandable and digestible for them. But you also talked about different things in the previous video, and that we'll talk about again, and one of them being ions and what this is about. So let's keep going into that, because we really just scratched the surface.
And we can, so the idea is there are so many layers. And so today, if we can sit with the idea of turn your ion, turn your ION, and so now ion to ion, we can go, oh, you are an archetype of light information. I'm an archetype of light information. We're on this game board in this vibrational resonance that we happen to be overlapping in this particular moment in time space.
Yes, yes.
Now we can relate to ourselves in reality as in format ion. Information is all it is pixels that are in an expression between off and on, a degree of offness and onness, potential energy, kinetic energy, latent, manifest. It's all, tension is what vibration is, right? So it's like a rubber band, an infinity symbol trying to resolve its own question, light particles on a quest. So this was an 8-year journey. I was on a question, and I'll pause after that. The main question was, if everything is vibration, which is how I was perceiving reality as a young child too, if everything is vibration, it's all information, which I learned as an information systems engineer, constructing like global banking systems and power grid systems.
Yes.
And so I understand
it's not
healthcare
unusual
systems.
how you got here. So
Crazy, right? And so then understanding that everything is just tension, what I was asking myself is, okay, if it's all vibration, how can we change our collective expression? So I have a master's in conflict and advanced degrees in organizational transformation and change as well. So I'm a change, conflict, communication, and consciousness specialist. So I've put all 4 C's together in the one model, because if everything is just tension, if we want to change reality, the deeper question that emerged was, what holds reality in place? If it's all tension, what if instead of trying to change the parts of the system of civilization, all the parts, what if we just allowed greater flow of energy and let the evolution adapt the intelligence itself? So basically, it's like opening up a new depth perception to allow us to be in flow state where we know we just exchange information in a new way, because it's just ion at ion looking at one another, going light particles exchanging. This feels resonant, this feels dissonant. That's all it is.
Can you explain to our viewers what flow state and what you mean by that?
Perfect question. So flow state, when I describe flow state, it's the aspiration of what people will often seek as what they're hoping to experience in meditation. So I'm going to put that aside for a second. Okay. Let's just talk about what flow state feels like. That's the easiest thing. When I say, what's the thing you do that when you're doing it, you just you're like 4 hours passed. What? You're like, God, what was I doing? For me, it's playing music. It could be being with someone you just love, and you're just lost in the moment. It's sometimes when I'm doing my work, I mean, 4, 5, 8 hours can go by and just, wow, where was I? I was just so immersed.
Could you also say that this is a channeling state?
Absolutely, because you're in that state of presence and allowing information to flow and move through you. I would say there's an awareness of the experience, but you're so lost in that moment. It's kind of like, it's just where time and space just magically disappear. And it could be when you're doing the mastery of what you do at work, it could be when you're literally meditating and you're in that transcendent state and you just feel that bliss of the moment. But it's a balance. Doesn't have to be a heightened state. It's just, you're in it and all of you's in it. When you are an athlete and you're in the zone, that's what flow state is.
Or as you could say, or like Abraham likes to say, in the vortex,
exactly.
Or in alignment. And the way that Spirit is showing me, and the way they refer to it, was almost like aligning with the quantum field. Could you say that? Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
So that's the synchronization, because when we are aligned with the quantum field, the quanta is just the smallest particle that we can comprehend and measure. It's where the collapse happens of the wave to the particle. Let's consider the quanta and the imagination language that I've created as the ion or the pixel. It's the most discrete element that is being expressed, that is off or on in that moment of perception.
Yes.
So synchronization really is the key to flow state, is understanding that we each have a unique frequency that we are intended to emerge aligned with. As you're saying, that alignment, that attunement to oneself then opens up the quantum entanglement, the coherence through the heart resonance.
Yes.
Allows
this
for
aligning with the soul energy, you could say.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That collective resonance of the entirety of the one self, of which we are just one fractal extension of. So it's the true entanglement and access to the all there is, of which we are just a subset.
Yes, this is beautiful. And it definitely sounds very nerdy, scientific, which that's my shit right there. Okay, you're speaking my language. And this framework that you've created, it looks like a map. It almost looks like a board game. It looks like something that goes in a specific order, and that if you follow the formula, it leads you could say, out of the maze and into a sense of power and where your true control is, which is not actually control, but allowing.
That sense of zero gravity, that sense of inner balance. You nailed it. You know the feeling, because you're describing it, where you're in that centeredness within you and you have access to the multi-dimensions. I know when you're doing your work, when you're reading of any sort, or, interpreting information, yes, you are in that transcendent receptive state, aware of your own applied lens of distortion, which all of us are still applying a filter. Being aware of the filter then allows us to know that we are just an instrument and a mechanism of, and still a subset of, a greater degree of vibration. So it is that sense of being balanced and accessing the multi-dimensional unraveling potential of really unlimited by our imagination, and then our degree of information integration potential. I'll share my screen in a second.
Yes, please. We're going to go into that, and I can't believe how many words have this ion at the end of it. You just start to go, holy shit, this is like embedded into our collective consciousness through language. And we talk about that in the previous video. And we do touch on several components of the ionation model. but we did briefly. I want to go into more detail. I want to get to the juicy nitty-gritty of these things. So let's start at the beginning, and let's go from where you should start and lead us out, away from the ego, out of the matrix, and into the multidimensional authentic self. Will you do that for us, please?
Well, we'll see how much we can pack in.
Please, let's do it.
Chrystopher, that's the key to ionation, is being in that flow state, or that 0 point, because then what happens is we begin to be able to interpret reality as this vibration or informational field, because energy has really no inherent meaning. So what you're looking at here is just, I've got the image in the background, and I wanted to highlight more of the higher level aspects of it, so we don't get lost in the details. So what snags us as humans is, if energy truly has no inherent meaning, why do we get triggered? So there's something that happens that takes us out of flow state. And having a master's in conflict, I had no idea it was going to be the study of consciousness, which then took me back to spirituality, which then took me back to emotions, and how cognition, which is actually right under here, is calibrated to emotion.
And when you say cognition, what do you mean by that?
So CHRONICLES, again, just stripping away everything in this world, this playground of ionation, we're just going to take, and we could pause every time to break off the words. And I'll actually read you the definition.
Please do. Please do. Yes. And what's the name of this book, and where can people find this book?
This is Ionation, the Field Guide to Vibrational Logic. This is the 8-year endeavor. I actually
where can I get this book?
We'll talk offline, and I'll get you one.
All right.
I've only sent a few out, and I haven't yet charged any money for this work, which was part of it. Just hasn't felt right yet. So
I understand that.
I haven't actually exchanged any currency.
I understand.
Right.
It feels pure.
Yeah. So cognition, cognate ion. Cognate is how we know the light, if we pretend ion, or how we know the ion. So there are definitions in here for each of the ion words. So cognition, etymology to know, you'll like the nerd out here, is a conditional evaluation script applied to information.
I see.
I'm going to keep going. Yeah, you got that?
Yes.
Cognition creates resistance through the inherent and essential evaluative distortion applied to the flow of information.
And this is where beliefs come in.
Exactly.
Got it.
So it's all like ones and zeros. And then there's this thing like pattern recognition, pattern recognition, where you're like, oh, that's in my kaleidoscope. How I interpret the world wants to now intercept that pattern because it means something to me.
Yes. Based on a previous experience, or a vibration or frequency that is even in the DNA, you could say ancestral trauma, things passed down to you.
That's exactly it. It's in the narrative, the version of reality, the context, the subjective inner realm. That's the left side of the diagram.
Very good.
You nailed it right there. The culture is this lower left quadrant of the box, giving us the context of how we perceive our individual realm of reality.
So this is the point where I start to realize that so much of what I'm doing to the ions in my reality was given to me, or you could say inspired, by the environment and family, society around me, not necessarily in alignment with who I came here to be as a soul.
That's exactly it. The indoctrination of culture is a cult. And actually,
you're killing me.
There's so much. Hold on. Let me tell you.
I'm loving this.
Get into culture now.
K. Michelle says she loves this. Me too, girl.
I'm glad it's resonating with, because it makes
Yes,
so much sense. I was like,
it
oh, if
does.
it's all information, let's break it down in a language with the dynamics of conflict, consciousness, change, and communication, which I just happen to like
Oh, you
have on
just
my
happen to
journey.
have that.
What if I
Yes.
just tease those things out and put the best of what I know in one relatable thing that we can play with and go, as humans, we're constantly in creative tension.
Yes.
What if we just recognize emotions are emitting? It's the exception to our aligned state. And you know that
Gotcha.
from the Abraham Hicks, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
We know that.
Yes.
Culture was an interesting thing. So culture is a conditional context. And remember, cognition is a conditional script. So
Yes.
culture is a conditional condition. It's telling the particles how to spin. Literally, it's an equation.
Oh, yes.
All right. So we're getting down to the quanta algorithmic level, telling it how to vibrate.
Your belief is spinning the molecule or the ion in a negative, which is not bad, meaning taking away, or positive, which means adding to.
You got it.
Got
I
it.
want to show you this while we're looking then. There's another image that shows the charge spin space time that you're talking about.
Yes, I can see
We'll get
it.
to that later.
That's where your true power is, and is your ability to spin the basketball in the way that you want. But we as an ego don't always feel like we have that choice because the emotion informs us.
That's exactly it. Creating a reactive structure for unaware of our emotion and not having orientation, the compass ion, to our emotional state. We're in reaction mode.
Yes.
Versus, under here is expression. That would be more deliberate expression through either inaction or a new action to a greater degree. So we're expanding this little box here in the middle. This is like our 3D reality. This is under the surface. This is what we can observe. This is the observable content of life, the objective reality. So here we're tying subjective and objective reality. Some people might be familiar with Ken Wilber's work, Integral Theory. Those are the 4 boxes here in the middle. I'm just going to make a reference point. Some people might know that work. So going back to culture, Chrystopher, I think is so important because especially in today's time, when some of us are finding that we're resonating a different truth, we're feeling like some things just don't align like they perhaps used to. We're popping out of our cultural context in a way.
Yes.
So culture is offering those conditional cognition scripts propagated through resonant identification. I'm going to explain that in a second.
Yes.
And then parentheses, associate ion equals belong. The deepest human need is a sense of belonging. Of oneself to a collective identity. So that sense of belonging gives ion permission to the consciousness to be receptive to the indoctrination of the beliefs, the assumptions. A belief is an assumption taken as truth.
Yes.
Assumption.
And a thought you keep thinking.
Behavior. Exactly. And the more we think it, we know the denser it becomes if the emotional entanglement is there.
Yes.
That creates this gravity of the situation. Let's pretend gravity is the magnetic charge to the electrical impulse is the thought here in the top left. And that spin of the magnetic impulse of the emotion is then generating the 3D collective organized illusion that we are.
Wow. Which illusion is not a bad thing. The entire thing is an illusion. But how the dream plays out is based on things that you do have control of, which you don't realize you have control of, because many things that your ego wants to associate itself with is because of your innate desire to actually unify and belong, which is what source energy wants to do.
That's exactly it.
I got it. I'm letting everybody else know I got it.
You
and I love, look at my water bottle. I just realized that. Oh my God. I honestly,
Hilarious.
I swear I did not. I just looked down to get my water bottle and I saw flow, and I was like, of all the times to buy this boxed water, which I never drink. Wow, this is some
Love
shit.
that so much. That's so perfect. Oh my gosh. Chrystopher, you're getting, see, once you relax and you get, it's just pixels of information. You said it earlier, when you relax the mind, all of a sudden we're not ensnared with the meaning making. That's
Yes.
what I learned in my conflict studies. The meaning making is the boundaries of the dimensions of how we know ourselves and the world around us. So when we just realize, oh, I'm triggered, I'm feeling an emotion,
Yes.
it's giving us the construct of a belief that is simply kind of letting itself be known, like you're hitting the layers of how you know yourself and the world around you. Do you care to peek to the other side? You don't have to agree with what's there, but there's something else that's not you currently. Otherwise, it would just pass right through you.
I see. Yes.
You're having a pattern recognition that's seeking to be resolved in this moment.
Yes. Well, there's so many spiritual teachings out there that's, get in alignment, think positively, focus on what you want, not what you don't want. But for some people, it just isn't that simple. There's so many different hallways and corridors to move through to get into the state of being able to resonate with your desire, except a lot of people don't have a way of getting there, where meditation can pull you there, but some people who are very intellectually or mentally inclined do need a secret passageway. And I do feel like that this is a not for long secret, but a passageway that kind of is very deliberate, because some people can feel their way out. Other people like me, the mind can stop that from happening. So if I can take the mind there, it can allow that process to occur. So
that's exactly it. It's a tool just to help us notice where we're snagged emotionally, mentally. There could be cultural programming and script that's subconscious. So it helps us go, oh, maybe there's something subconscious here, or maybe
because there's so much of this that we're identifying with. We really think this is my thought, this is my belief, this is how I feel. And this gives you an opportunity and permission, Ion, to step out of the identity into a neutral, where it's neither positive or negative, so that you can at least choose from there.
That's exactly it.
I get it.
Did you know identity in the computational and programming is a copy paste? So identity literally means copy paste at the programmatic algorithmic level. So when we think about identity liberation, it's truly being able to express yourself in that individuated way that is not entangled with any prescripted way of being that was indoctrinated or perhaps even
this work is triggering in and of itself, because for those who are not ready to encounter all that they are on their way out of this maze, just know you may not make it all the way out the first time. I can see this. I can see many things stopping me, and my ego going, whoa, you want to identify with that. You're a good person, not one of those bad people who would do such and such. So
that becomes the key, is that polarization maintains reality is all triangles. And so if you look down here, can you see this one with the polarization?
Yes, I see it.
If we imagine it's all triangles. And so right there, when we talk about good and bad, whenever we're on a spectrum of evaluation, when we evaluate ion, we are creating a persistence of the pattern in the system, the system when I'm talking reality, and therefore that repetition is creating a denser form of that expression.
Yes, because every time you think it and then emote it, it's adding to it, kind of like a cloud that starts out white and fluffy, and it gets denser and darker, and not bad, but just it gets heavier and denser until something has to rain. And that's where we go through our awakenings or our breakdowns and that sort of thing.
It's a perfect analogy because it's a saturation point. If you imagine we're just a bunch of little systems spitting out information, it's input, process, output. And if there's not a clean flow in the system, there becomes pollution and oversaturation of the mind, the body, the heart, magnetic energy, you know, it's all interconnected.
Yes, which is where the depress ion comes in because of how saturated you are, and because, and this is where Abraham can come in, how it densifies you into the more dense emotions, which are not bad emotions. They are just vibrating at that denser frequency.
Exactly. It's just information. That's exactly it. So once we recognize that polarization is creating the persistence of the pattern, because if reality is vibration and everything is in motion, something is generating the persistence, which we know is the thought. So when we actually then come back to neutral point, and that is observation without language. When we observe without applied language, and maybe we just sit and we watch the sunset and we're in awe and we're just allowing, we feel that flow and the breath and the ease and the wonder. Guess what happens at the quantum level? You're no longer applying that same resistant pattern, even subconsciously, and that dissipates that tendril of entangled reality. It dissipates and dissolves it more and more out of your reality. It's a disintegration of that manifestation from your reality. So neutralization in the quantum, if we imagine polarized lenses, when you apply a third polarized lens of neutrality, it allows light to pass through. That wasn't there before, right? So
yes, because it was too busy bouncing off the two, and now it has something to, I totally understand.
It allows light to pass through again.
And your vision ion clears.
That's it. Exactly.
And that's when, so many people who are watching this video who follow me and follow your work, these are people who are ascending. They are going through spiritual awakening. They're going through their ascension process. So, which many of them are waking up to their multidimensional self and their authentic self. And this is allowing that process to, it's giving it language to understand how this is working. A lot of what needs to be healed are these belief systems and these thought forms that are playing over and over. If we can unhook using this over and over and over, we'll build our ionation muscle up, and then we'll be able to do it without needing to look at this and follow the chart like a dance. So I kind of want to show people, how can you get out of a sticky situation using this? Because this has this isn't just a bunch of Star Trek talk. This has real world application, ion. No. Now, and what I was going to say earlier is so many of us, one of the ascension symptoms that people are experiencing is as they're waking up, these synchronicities are showing themselves. And it almost seems like, where have they been all my life? They have been there. It has been 11:11 on the clock many times in your life. There have been license plates passing you with 888 at the end of it many times in your life. Your vision was directing your focus and your percept ion to the point where you weren't even able to experience that.
You just went through it. How would you like to do this? Let's walk through. I want to have you.
Well, what I want you to do is, as we go through, if I want to kind of give it context in situations that I may go through, I may do that. But I just kind of want, because I can see the first point we have to go through is synchronization. So once you get, is that where we start?
We can start
no,
there. The numbers, we can jump in anywhere.
I see. No, we need to start in the 3D because that's where we really are. Let's start in the 3D and work our way out.
So I like that. I usually start right here in the center. I was curious because this is new to engage, so I'm really happy to see how let's start here in the center. Let's imagine, so this is a construct that is meant to be multi-dimensional, right? So don't think of it as a flat piece of paper. I know immediately you could see and feel.
Holy Spirit showed it to me immediately that way.
So if you imagine, it can look like the Merkaba or the star tetrahedron around an individual, around anything is going to have an informational construct around it. So this was just I played around and made a construct. So imagine the left side of the line is all what we can't see. It's the content, right? It's the context of what sets up our grid. It's the framework of our grid.
It's the collagen. Okay? Yes.
Yeah. And then the right side is objective reality that, you know, we can perceive, we can measure behavior. We know the motion when we take action. You know, we know our systems and structures of reality are here. So we're sitting in any moment of reality. We have multiple domains of information that we're perceiving. And if that's the one thing we take away, two things that I'd love for people to take away today. When you are in a moment of time and you're like, oh, wait, I'm in a moment of time right now, and you become present.
Yes.
There's two main worlds happening, your inside world, your exterior world. And then there's a third one, which is the simultaneity of both the interior and the exterior. It's when you're aware of your awareness, you're aware of the conditions, you're aware of the situation, you're aware of the other people in the room and the fact that they have an expression and an awareness or not awareness of their own awareness.
Yes.
So now you become aware in any moment in time that you're engaging intelligence all around you. You have a field of energy engaging the system of energy around you, engaging other systems of energy around you. And that right there, when you turn your eye on and you remember that it's all tension, it's all information, trying to get along and dance and explore, it's just points of consciousness, then the other invitation is to know that every ION word is just telling us what we're doing with that energy in the system. Because if we allow a little more flow, there's a natural reorganization that happens in the collective illusion, because we're not stuck with the projection of a certain limiting version of the narrative that we were indoctrinated with.
Absolutely.
Shake loose how we were scripted, the cognition, how we know the light. Not ion notions flow through the open door, the open source door of intuition. Intuit ion to know beyond reason.
Reason.
What is reason but cognition? So look at the simple languaging that I'll point out in the model. Cognate, how we know, how we don't know, not ion.
Right.
Which flows in through intuition. When we get an intuitive hit, what do we get? An emotional response.
Absolutely.
Correspondence, correspond, emotional response. You know, it's like so simple. So then you have the emitting of the ion, and if you're aware enough, you go, oh, let me get synchronized and figure out, what am I feeling? Oh, that's elation. I'm just excited that I got this intuitive information. Don't go into anxiety. Let me just rein it in and just sit. Every time you get a not ion, what's it doing to your box of reality? You just stretched it. So every time you see a triangle, you know you've added tension to your life as a creative being.
Which is not a bad thing. I do want people to understand the word tension is necessary.
It is life. That's it. Tension
Yes.
is life. And so to dance in the center here is to be able to hold the tension. Two more points I want to call out. What was everyone's talking about intentions these days?
Yes. Set your
Intention is to
intentions.
stretch. Look at
Ah,
right?
yes.
Set your intentions and get ready to
Yes.
stretch, because you are then expanding your grid, your matrix, to say, I want new information. I am receptive to new information beyond my known box of limitation. I want to do a version upgrade. A verse ion, we're singing a song, a frequency. Verse ion is the song we're singing, narrating.
Yes.
We're telling the light particles what song to sing.
Yes.
And when we're aware of it, we can rescript it once we recognize what intention we're holding.
And I can see the outside, this area out here, the outer triangles are the more, I don't want to say ethereal, but higher vibrational layer to this.
You got it.
There we go. You're breaking it out.
Your mind works like mine. I love it. So the 4 boxes are dimensional reality. There's charge is the perception box. Spin.
Yes. Motion.
Yep. And then space.
How it's
and
operating.
Then time is given by language. Language is actually giving us time, and our frequency is generating time. We are the function of time.
Yes. Which, for those of you who are into ascension, and because another ascension symptom is time dilation. Oh gosh, it's not going to stop for me.
No,
but
it won't.
The feeling that time is passing you by, or time is speeding up, and science has proven that time actually is speeding up. And what I have gotten intuitively, and from what I can feel, that time is actually speeding up because time is an illusion created by our consciousness. And the more we vibrate higher and raise our consciousness, well, obviously the illusion of time and the percept ion of time will speed up in accordance with that. So this shows you how you can intentionally drive time, which is why when you're in flow state, you don't experience time.
Exactly it.
Okay.
Your matrix, your context is filling in with the content in the emergent. So this is an emergent 0-point framework where you're emerging with the grid, the lattice structure.
Yes, this would be why in the 5th dimension, ion, time isn't linear, and manifestate ion can happen instantaneously.
Exactly. When the conditions ripen, given whatever the programmatic structures are. Like here, we do have time dilation because of the gravity function that we choose.
Yeah. We choose it,
as a particular agreement on Earth, and that
holding all this in place in this way.
Exactly. So knowing that we have this latitude to express and play, you're nailing it. I love how, Chrystopher, you're really
I plan on teaching this to other people.
I love that so much. It's the tension points start to break us loose, and that's where it gets interesting. So we're in the box, and then this right here, I wanted, because you started to get into the diamonds and the other shapes. The tensions of disillusionment are right here. So you have to start knowing your emotion, understanding every moment there's an expression. If you think of it even from a computational perspective, it's one big equation with multiple equations. So that's tensions of disillusionment. And then this out here is the tensions of creation and destruction.
Yes, which again, destruction is a beautiful thing. The universe must expand and contract.
The disintegration is required for new creation. That's exactly it. And then the outer band is the tensions of adaptation, or vibrational intelligence, where you can adapt in real time because you're just so aware of your intention. It's not, when I say aware, it's just embodied with present moment intention, and in every moment you're just perceiving the field. It's Jedi-like.
Yes.
Perceiving
Yes,
and
it is.
recognizing information as a feedback loop. Everything is an echo. It's a feedback loop. And once we recognize context, content, what is the interplay between the two of inner, outer, and then the third aspect is the consciousness experiencing itself.
Yes.
And anything becomes possible. We're just players on a hero's
Yes.
journey, engaging one another.
So this outer band is where you become so aware that the higher self is the one infusing the experience or driving the ship.
Yeah.
Got it.
Inspired flow. Inspire it, ION. You're the breath of the divine spirit. You're the
Yes.
breath.
Which you are even when you're angry and yelling and crying. You are. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's okay to be in the box. You came here to be in the box so that you could try to get out of the box. That's what ascension is about. It's for the fun of it. Let's remember that.
We get to collectively now create a cool new box to enjoy in the 3D, and then know that we always can integrate more. I enjoy how you remind that there is no bad experience. They're just uncomfortable and they're not.
They are
pleasant.
uncomfortable, yes.
And then the beauty is we can begin to shift and alter.
It's making a lot of sense because, again, we go back to all of these teachings, all of these different ways that we're trying to not only find things that heal us, crystals and sage, and there's so much of the metaphysics going on, and we need to bring in the quantum physics and the entangled web, and it is a web, and understanding its parts. Not everyone's perception is the same, but for many this seems to be something that could be a driving force, and almost kind of like they're showing it to me like in Willy Wonka, that elevator that doesn't just go up or down. And it kind of can take you into the fifth dimension, okay? Which is not a place, it's the state of consciousness of, it's just a higher vibrational state of consciousness and unity consciousness. That's what seems to be what's happening out here when you synchronize and unify. Am I on this right page here?
It vibes with me. What you're saying sounds spot on.
I know so many of you out there have read so many books. You've read Abraham, you're into Bashar, you're tapping, you're doing your breath work. There's so many things we're doing to get emotions to come up and to heal things that were passed down to us. Psychological, you're doing the therapy, you're doing the plant medicine. A lot of times just a simple shift in percept ion could start a chain reaction that you start to realize, oh, I don't need someone else to heal me. Although shamans and energy healers, psychics, mediums, therapists, we help unravel that. We all came here as a whole bunch of different organisms, not just one, so that we could collectively play and help each other. And you healing me, because I have had healing from you, that healed you. So I understand that. So this map, you know what they're showing me right now? And I don't care that people are watching. They're showing me kind of like this, you turning this actually into a 3D model that is made out of some kind of resin or plastic or something.
I want to get it 3D printed. It's
okay, perfect. Well, they're wanting you to do this, okay? I'm getting a lot of information right now, actually, and I see it being taken to colleges, places of high-level institutions, and being, like I saw last time, companies implementing this model, teaching it to certain students who are, and this isn't just for energy people and us woo-woo people. These are NASA, government programs and things like that. could utilize this in a way to, just the same way government has used remote viewers and other types of seemingly metaphysical abilities and information to gain information about other areas on Earth. I think this is going to be one of those models that are, I guess you could say, represent the new age of Aquarius and the new age in which we're also welcoming other beings from other star systems here, because this represents the level of consciousness we would need to be at to exist with them. So I'm just seeing this go in a very futuristic direction. Okay, it's exciting. And it, you know, on the Chronicles of Chiron, we talk about tapping, breath work, affirmations, shamanic soul retrieval, DNA light activation, so many things that someone can do in their process to help heal this energy. And a lot of times what I want to reinforce to people is that we are placing a lot of importance on the healer. And we know that the healer is just setting a tone that we have to heal ourselves through. This seems like a tone that they can buy, absorb, use for themselves. It's kind of like a package deal. I feel complete about this. How do you feel?
I feel really complete too.
Okay,
I appreciate the opportunity to just kind of dance around the content. There are so many layers.
Oh, this could go so much deeper, but
we got to go through so many layers of it. I appreciate it. I'm so glad it resonates.
I felt it last time, but now I know it. Now I can actually, just like when you are in a new city and you can't navigate, I feel like I could navigate it now. So I really appreciate it.
It's time for you. I'll get the guide to you, because when you read the guide, it'll
yes, I want that. So Darshana, please tell our audience where they can find you if they want to book a session with you or for more information.
I appreciate it. TurnYourIon, TurnYourIon.com. And if you go under schedule a session, you can do that directly. I offer 60-minute virtual sessions with clients, both energy work, but we can use the IONATION model to facilitate, and often intuitive information comes through. So it's very individualized every session.
Yes.
TurnYourIon.com. And then I do a little on Facebook and Instagram. That's Unscripted Way. But YouTube is where I'll be putting most content, and that is Turn Your Ion as well, Turn Your ION on YouTube.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. I really appreciate it. This has been very enlightening, and I'm resonating with it so much. It's creating elate ion, okay? And I wouldn't kiss your ass, okay? It's really, I really feel it. And I don't always feel this way about something. So it's very exciting. So for those of you who have questions, please reach out to Darshana. She wants to help you. And this is something she wants to get out into the world. And if you have any questions for me or want to book a session or more information, of course, you can go to my website. That's Chrystopher with a Y medium.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter at the.astromedium. Thank you all so much again for joining us for the Chronicles of Chiron, the Lion, the Witch, and the Healer. We will see you all next week for another episode here on Soulfire, a virtual spiritual art center at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you and have a good night.